easily turn the tide of this battle. I don't see any Vikings coming in right now, and the Stalkers are now pursuing this Bile Ball, taking out the rest of it. Are those Medivacs going to go down? I think at least one and maybe two are going to go down. What is happening here? Zell's coming in, chopping up a couple of Marines, and the Dropship's just going to be able to move back here, plop down a couple of units, and harass this position. God, don't you love Dropships as a Terran player? I sure hate them as a Protoss player. Gives a pretty average speed army that great mobility that it lacks using those dropships, and Zealots are going to be able to mop up this position. Is he going to be able to save these Marines? No, those Marines did see the last days of their life. A couple more Marauders coming in, and right now this Terran player is just relentless. He has been constantly harassing. I don't think I've seen an offensive exchange from the Green Protoss player in quite a while. He's just been pretty much playing defense with his Colossus and High Templar. So let's see how he's going to be able to deal with that. And if he does decide to go for this base, he's got, siege tanks right here going to be firing missiles at his face. So once those tanks do siege up, that'll be really tough to take that position. Some more Colossus taking out this Bile Ball right here, and right now it just feels like the Protoss player is just chilling. Like, he's not doing a lot. He's just defending on this position. He's got high-tech units. He's got his Templar. He's got his Colossus. I think he should be preparing for a push sometime soon. Right now, both armies are pretty quiet, but it is always quietest before the dawn. I guess in this case it's always dark on this map, so I'm not sure what that means. But if anyone is an English major, maybe you can tell me what that means. But I'm not. I actually study business, so I don't do that anymore. Okay, so here comes the Banshee, and flying in. I don't know what he's doing, but the Banshee was flying across. And here comes the Colossus and the High Templar going on this Bile Ball. I don't think the Green Protoss player is going to be able to deal with this, but how is he going to manage against this Bile Ball? He is actually going to retreat. That's how he's going to manage. Is he going to lose some High Templar in the forefront? And the Fat Archon actually sliding back here. Not great. The Archon is going to go down. A bunch of High Templar being warped in. I think this Bile Ball is in trouble now, but here are those siege tanks just whittling away at this force. That's what I was talking about. It's going to be really tough for this Protoss player to engage on this position with those siege tanks there, and the Colossus in a decent position right now, just out of range of those siege tanks. A missile turret right there. I think I would have preferred it to be a little bit closer to deal with any observer that might be coming in. Do we see an observer in the production tab? We don't. I don't see any observers on the map either. None in his base or anything like that, so no, we don't see that. One thing I would like to note is that a lot of Protoss players like to build pylons outside of their base so they can see what's happening in case there's like a Nidus worm or like a dropship coming in. They'll be able to see it instantly. So one unit goes down there. Siege tank's in a great position. Right now I think the Green Protoss player should set up some static D right here and then maybe go around and attack the other side where it's less siege defended. I think that's exactly what's happening right now, actually. There are no tanks right here, and the high yield is almost mined out. So actually, this is not a base he really needs to be going for. He needs to be going for almost everything is mined out, honestly. These players are going to be on their last limb soon enough, so that's going to be pretty crazy. And tons of Colossus. Is that enough Colossus? Is that enough Colossus for him to deal with any Vikings? I don't see any Vikings, actually, so I think the Terran player is going to be in a lot of trouble. This planetary fortress just go down. The rest of those high yields are not going to be mined out, but there only are a couple of minerals left on here anyway, so that's not really a huge loss. But a base exchange going here right now. This is actually a much bigger loss for the Green Protoss players. We see there are tons of minerals still left on this base, a decent amount of minerals left here. This base is almost mined out, and it looks like the Protoss player is going to engage on this position, and there really is no minerals left on this base, but there is some production, so he might be able to take out that siege production capability. Dropships coming in. Are they going to go on the high yield? Protoss player still has tons of minerals to deal with. Looking at the resources lost, yeah, I don't know how these numbers actually makes sense, because the Protoss player has actually lost more than the Terran player, but the Terran player has pretty much been mined out, and they are pretty equal on army size, so I don't know how that happened. Maybe just he's been losing a big expensive units or whatever, but I think he's actually going to be able to defend against his position and take out this Bile Ball right here, and this base is actually going to go down. There is, again, missile turrets firing at the Colossus. There's not much that Planetary Fortress can do against that many Colossus. They can't even repair because all the SCVs will just swoosh die in a second. And there goes the Planetary Fortress. What is the Terran player going to do to deal with this? That orbital command is going down, so actually there is close to zero income for the Terran player. And right now, +2 weapons on those Colossus. That is going to be beastly against that Bile Ball. And there's not much in production for the Terran players. Got a couple of Banshees, Marines, and Ghosts. I think he's kind of on his last limb right here. And for the Protoss players, actually getting ground weapons level 3, so he's actually attacking up. And the Terran player is getting a lot of Ghosts. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but he's getting a lot of Ghosts, a lot of Marines. I think he should just be pumping Marauders if he can, or more Vikings against those Colossus. I guess it's kind of a huge challenge as a Terran player, how to deal with Colossus, because if you get Vikings, Stalkers can counter them fairly well, and then how do you deal with the rest of the force? You know, you've got Vikings against gateway units, which isn't that great. So I guess you really need a complex combination of units, Vikings, Marauders, and just some great micro to deal with that. And he doesn't have any siege tanks. All those factories are dead. I think he maybe has one in his base. I'm not even sure. But here comes this massive Protoss force coming in. And at this point, I don't think there's a lot MiaWare can do. He's building a command center, I guess, for that gas on that refinery. Going for a couple of harasses right here, and this might be a last push attempt by MiaWare to go into this base, but High Templar, so many High Templar here, and a couple of Zealots here to deal with that, so I don't really think that MiaWare is going to be able to eke out of this game alive. I think it's pretty much safe to say that the Protoss player is going to eventually win in this game, so yeah, guys, I think there's going to be one more exchange, and then I'll wrap up the map and see maybe there could be some magical Hail Mary play coming in right here. And here it goes. The Stalkers are approaching in on this position. Now Colossus in the back. There's so much going on. This is just a beating for the Terran players. Psystorm and Colossus with Thermal Lance upgrade is just not a competition. Pretty much all that's left, though, are a bunch of Colossus. One Banshee. Might this one Banshee turn the tide if he kills those Stalkers? That Archon is down, so there actually are no anti-air capabilities for the Protoss player. A couple of Stalkers are coming in right now, though, and he is attacking this Planetary Fortress, and I think that is going to be GG for MiaWare. Zealots coming in with their +3 damage, or +3 weapons upgrade. Look at that, 11 damage per attack, 22 damage on each attack for Zealot. That is just huge amounts of damage, and on the Thermal Lance, 21 splash damage, 2 attacks. Incredible. You pretty much one-shot an SCV there and all his buddies. So that is the game, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I think this is a nice game to come off my break, and I think what I'm going to be pretty much doing is casting matches like this. I really like the Korean matches. You see some very interesting play, and this game was more of just like an epic, intense War of the Worlds kind of macro game, but I've definitely seen some games where I've just been like, oh, how did they do that? And they're just fantastic players. Not to say that American pros aren't great either, that's not true. But you tend to see the highest level of StarCraft 2 played in Korean games. I think that's fair to say, because it's a national sport there. Maybe StarCraft 1. StarCraft 2 is gaining popularity, though, so that is the game, guys. If you like this game, please like, rate, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, so that I can get the positive reinforcement from the community to keep making games and not go on this hiatus. Because if people are like, Maze, come back, make more games, I'll be like, all right, I will do this. And that's pretty much the game. Also, I want to give a big shout out to Hypnotica. He was my first subscriber. He's a good friend of mine, and he is my official PR manager. He's my official PR manager. So he actually calls me Mazeesports in real life. So big shout out to him. And if you guys want, I'll leave his channel in the comments below, or I'll leave his channel in the description below. And just write on his wall like, "You're so sexy" or something. And I think he'd really appreciate that. So yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of Mazeesports.